Gunia, Usla, Kate Mille Folche. Well, for our Irish guests, don't get too excited because these are the two only lines of Irish I speak, so you have to do it with this. On behalf of the Foundation VO2GO, I want to welcome you all on this very special day. Today, we remember and honor Pilot Officer Thomas Noble Forster, who gave his today for our tomorrow 74 years ago. 40 members of the Forster clan have come over from Ireland, Denmark and England to attend the ceremony in Stad in Halifax and unveil the memorial panel that will remember of Tommy's final sacrifice. A very special welcome to the Forster family, McPhail, Sheridan, Rama Quinzel and Duffy. Also welcome Miss Carolyn Whelan, Deputy Head Mission of the Irish Embassy. Thank you for being here with us today. It means a lot to the family. On behalf of the municipality of Goorle-Overkey, Alderman Mr. Tollenaar, the members of the village council Stad en het Haringvliet, and especially Wilco Blok and Piet Diepenhorst, who helped us organizing this day and host us here in the Trefpunt. Mr. Herman Maas, over there, the former doctor of this village and who has been so helpful the first time the Forster family visited here in Stad en het Haringvliet. And of course, this time he is always kind as always and arranging all kind of things for us. The members of the Association Veterans from Goorle-Overkey, the delegation of the Bond van Wapenbroeders, the delegation of the Royal British Legion Branch Holland, all the people from the Trefpunt, the friends of the Foundation VO2GO, and of course all the other people who are here with us today. Thank you for coming. I now would like to invite Stella Braber. She's from the Village Council Stad en Haringvliet and she will welcome you.
It is a special honor for us to organize on this ceremony. We give a warm welcome to Thomas Forster's relatives in our beautiful village Stad aan het Haringvliet with almost 1,300 inhabitants. World War II had an enormous impact on our village. The German army was stationed here and they were afraid that the invasion would start here. Therefore, the Germans flooded our polders. Families were evacuated and men were obliged to work in Germany. Only a few people were allowed to stay here. Nearby the place, on the Zeedijk, where this ceremony will take place, there was a battery located which fired on the Allied armies in Brabant, the already liberated territory. We are thankful to people like Thomas Forster, who offered his life for our freedom. It is important that stories like these are remembered and passed through to the next generations. We wish you all a memorable ceremony.
Robert Forster will now tell you more about the life of Tommy before his service.
Thomas Noble Forster, our Uncle Tom, was born in August 1921 at the mill in Balnalee, a small village on the banks of the Camlin River in County Longford. His father, Thomas Elliot Forster, was a miller and a farmer. His mother, Frances, came from Enniskillen. The Forster family lived there since about 1680. He started school at Currigal School in Balnalee at about 4 years old. His mother was the school teacher. We don't know much about what Tom spent his time doing apart from schoolwork. My father always said about him that he spent a lot of time in the garden, even petting bumblebees on flowers. Flowers and plants were certainly of interest to him, as I can see in a letter from his mother, the 29th of March, 43. The seeds you sent came this morning, but none of the plants. I have the garden all dug up and ready. In our youth, the mill was as we called it, was an exciting place to visit. There was always something going on there. Boats were built for sailing on the river. Upstairs in one of the old houses, a stage was simply constructed and Baal Theatre was open. I don't ever remember a play having been completed there, but it was certainly fun dressing up. Going for a ride on a bike with one of my slightly older cousins was also a daring thing to do. The only place to sit was on the bar and hold on for dear life with both hands. I could imagine it being much the same for Tom. That's in his time. The mill was always alive with people. We loved visiting Mulvey and hear the old stories as he kept the turf fire going under the kiln. Another was Sarah. I don't know if she was family or employed or just had the good fortune to live there. I remember once when she visited us at Christmas, she gave us a present of an old jug with flowers with different coloured petals painted on both sides of it. It was on our table every day for years to come. This way of life was the building blocks for Uncle Tom's character. In 1933, only 12 years old, Tom went to Wilson's Hospital School in Multifarnham, where he made his mark. He carved his name on the back of the window shutter in the Form 3 room, and it's still there. From his results, we can see that he was excellent at algebra, trigonometry, maths, and did well in Irish, geography, and history. Later then, he seemed to acquire an ability for English and religious knowledge. He was confirmed in the school chapel on the 22nd of May 1936. 33 years after, I was confirmed on the very same chapel, with Uncle Tom's name followed by a small cross on the roll of honour hanging on the back wall. Uncle Tom did his final schooling at Mountjoy School in Dublin before leaving for his greatest assignment. Uncle Tom's sense of modesty and responsibility for others were part of the baggage wherever he went, whether training in Canada, where he went to see family, and his fatal last trip to Essen. We don't know the complete story, but he got the crew down safely, despite it deciding his fate. I heard something lately on television. Mind the gap. Literally, a phrase used to warn people of the gap between the platform and the train in London Underground. Mind the gap can also have a psychological meaning. The gap between our life as it is and our dreams. If the gap gets too big, we can feel disappointed in life, maybe depressed or even lose heart. Uncle Tom was certainly not disappointed in life. He was living his dream. He had no gap. He had learned to fly at Halifax at 21 years old. I don't think that he went to fight a country or a people. He went to fight a dictator whose ideology had gone extremely wrong, causing millions of people to suffer terribly, also here on this beautiful island. Thank you all for our welcome here on this island. It's been great. It means so much to everybody. And thank you to the Irish Embassy for coming here too. Thank you, Dennis, for making it all happen. Thank you.
Right, like Robert already told you, Tommy trained in Canada, where he received his wings. He then was transferred to 24 Operational Training Unit at the RAF Honeybourne in England in September 1942. He was trained there for flying operations at night. As you might know, the RAF changed their strategy after the horrendous losses during operations at daytime. Tom flew most of his training missions in the Armstrong Whitford Whitley, which you can see here. It's not the most beautiful airplane, but it's personal. This was one of the 3 British twin-engined medium bomber types that were in service with the Royal Air Force at the outbreak of the Second World War. The other 2 were the more famous Vickers Wellington and the Handley Page Hamden. From his logbook we know that Tommy flew many training hours in this plane and he enjoyed it really a lot. Life at the base was not bad. The airmen lived in the famous Nissen huts and the food was good. Tom wrote his mother that he had chicken a few times and they would get 2 times a week eggs. And he even had 5 oranges since he was at the base. He even watched the famous movie Gone with the Wind. But he didn't like it that much. And when you realize this movie lasts almost 4 hours, it's quite an achievement that he watched it all the way. After some delay, by the end of November 1942, Tommy finally had completed the entire crew of 5. They were Thomas Forster, the pilot, Eric Drury, Walter Hodgson, Cal Wayte and David Baxter. Well, these pictures are, of course, the right is Tommy, the pilot. On the left is Hodgson. He was the flight engineer. And well, this is also an interesting picture. It's a picture of a group at gunnery school near Castle Kennedy, which is in the west of Scotland. And two of the Forster crew are in this picture. The left one, that is Eric Drury. He was the wireless operator. And the right one is Cal Wayte. He was the rear or tail gunner. Altogether, they started now to make longer cross countries all over England, taking them up from the Isle of Wight up to the Isle of Man. Since it was November, the crew also started to experience the extreme cold up in the air, which could easily get as cold as minus 40 degrees Celsius. Getting back in their bed in the Nissen huts with a nice log fire after mission was something Tom really appreciated as he rode it home. In February 1943, two members of the Royal Canadian Air Force were added to the crew. Sergeant Sendell, he was the navigator, and Jameson the bomb-aimer. They all went to the so-called Flight Conversion Unit and trained there in the Halifax Mark II for service in 78 Squadron. This is the Handley Page Halifax. It was a 4-engined heavy bomber and it was developed by Handley Page as a contemporary of the Avro Lancaster. Its maximum bomb load was almost 13,000 pounds and it cruised with a 225 miles per hour at a maximum height of about 22,000 feet. Its enormous wingspan was 104 feet and it's quite impressive as you see here in the picture. This picture was taken at the Yorkshire Air Museum. The one who took the picture is actually here, he's in the back case. It's a beautiful plane. On 16 February, Tom and his crew flew their first ops. The mission was preceded by a breakfast with bacon and eggs, followed by a briefing where the atmosphere was tense. Nervous jokes and laughter punctuated the details of the briefing. The last hour before takeoff was the worst. Secret hopes grew that at the final moment there might be a cancellation. As the seconds ticked by, the feeling of apprehension gripped the crew. The men then were dispatched to the locker rooms to leave their personal possessions. Parachutes, flying kit and mascots were collected. Tom and his men were then brought to their Halifax HR 569. The fear, the dry mouth had to be choked down with all the courage that could be summoned. But once airborne, the mind was able to focus on the details of the operation. 2 hours later, they were over the target, Lorient in France, and after the bomb load was delivered, pilot officer Tom Forster headed for home, and at precisely 20 minutes past 1, they landed safely back at the base at Linton-on-Ouse. Their first mission was a success. They lived. 11 more missions followed, varying from laying mines in sea lanes and harbors to bombing missions in France and deep into Germany. All of them were completed without a scratch. On April 3, there was the call again. Ops tonight. The same routine as always, the same nerve-wracking last hour before takeoff. Only one thing was different. For reasons we do not know, mid-upper gunner Baxter was replaced by Sergeant Thornton. Thornton was already flying missions with 78 Squadron since November 1942. His logbook shows that he flew with many different crews, so we can say he was some kind of a pool gunner. He was used where he was needed. But this night it was the first time with the Forster crew. Now let me take you back to that evening. At 7:45, the Forster crew takes off together with 11 other Halifax bombers from 78 Squadron. They are just a small part of a much larger strike force of 338 heavy bombers with one target, the city of Essen in the Ruhr industrial area. The way to the target is uneventful, and although the weather is not very good for bombing, they deliver their bomb load right at the spot where the pathfinder marked the target and head for home. The designated route is via Holten to Egmond to Linton-on-Ouse. And this will take them over the Zuiderzee, which is a rather safe route because there will be no anti-aircraft. And as long as night fighters stay off the tail, this mission will be successful despite the omen of another crewman aboard. However, when they are over Holland, suddenly the port inner engine starts to shudder and quits. The port outer is hardly pulled at all, and they are starting to lose altitude fast. They get caught in the searchlights, but Tommy managed to dodge them. When they are coming near the Dutch coastline, one of the starboard engines explodes and catches fire. Hodgson, the flight engineer, yells to the skipper that he can't get the fire under control. The flight engineer, they are down to 9,000 feet now and descending fast. Tommy realizes the situation is hopeless and gives order to bail out. One by one, the men jump out of the plane in the dark night. Hodgson is the last one to leave, and when he passes the skipper on his way to the back, Tom smiles at him, which gives him the confidence he needs at this critical moment. It seems Tom realizes he will be killed if he won't get out fast, but he keeps the kite flying so the rest can get out. It is through his courage that the crew is able to get out. They all land safely, but are taken prisoner of war and survive the camps and the notorious marches to other death camps or camps at the end of the war. What exactly happened with Tommy will probably be a mystery forever, but he will forever be remembered by his family, by us, the people of Goeree-Overflakkee, and those who will pass the memorial on the Zeedijk, which we will unveil shortly. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Amy.
Hello everybody. I'm going to try and tell you a little of what happened at home after they got news of Uncle Tom. This is the first letter my grandmother wrote to my Uncle Willie, Tom's older brother, after she heard that Tom was missing. She said, "It's dreadful about Tom. Oh Willie, what will we do if anything has happened to him? My darling baby son. God grant he may be a prisoner in Germany. We are hoping against hope that he is. Oh Willie, Willie, what will we do?" I was finishing my breakfast on Monday morning. Dick and Bob had gone out. That's Tom's two brothers who lived at home. And Dick came back in crying and put his arms around me. And told me Bob came in broken hearted too. And poor Daddy was very terribly upset too. We went up to tell him because he was still in bed. Bob went and told Mr. and Mrs. Birch, our local clergyman and his wife, and they came down at once and they were very upset. On the night of the 3rd of April, my Uncle Tom and his crew left Linton-on-Ouse in a Halifax-bomber on an operation to flight to Essen in Germany. A few days later, my grandparents were informed by the Squadron that they did not return to base that night, but that it was possible that Tom and his crew landed safely in enemy territory, and expressed their sympathies for the distress and anxiety this would cause them the following days and nights. Lots of family and friends and neighbours all rallied round. The house was rarely without visitors, keeping them going, keeping their hopes up. We are blessed our grandmother was a great writer and wrote regularly to our uncle, expressing every emotion she felt over the following weeks and months and even years. We have all these letters which my uncle kept and left to us, and it's a priceless legacy. My grandmother also wrote regularly to the Red Cross, the Air Ministry, Squadron, also to some of the crew's parents. She lived for any new piece of information that would give her new hope that wee Tom, as she called him, was alive somewhere. Praying each day that they would have news of him, especially when they heard the rest of the crew were taken prisoners and were in prisoner war camps. They also heard stories of other servicemen who turned up after many months missing. Some had been ill in hospital, some others had got overseas, some were in hiding. All this gave my grandparents renewed hope, but sadly, wee Tom never returned. We are so proud of him. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
We now have a poem dedicated by Greta Luchtmeijer.
I wrote a poem about your uncle's middle name. A noble man. After dropping the cargo on murdering machinery, striking them right in the heart, they celebrate good fortune, flying home on their paper wings. Young heroes they are, invulnerable young. Their date with destiny within Tom's hands, keeping the rudder straight home. Misfortune unforeseen makes them gliding in full hands. By his doing, he bought them time and touched the faith of many, sacrificing himself to the cold water. Young as he could be, and always will, in our proud memory, just a noble man. And I have this poem to present to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, this part of the ceremony has now ended. We will now gather in front of the trefront, and from there we will walk to the Zeedijk.
Very moved.
Dames en heren, jongens en meisjes, hartelijk welkom hier op de Zeedijk in Stad en het Haringvliet. We zijn hier vandaag bijeengekomen om dit herdenkingspaneel te onthullen ter ere van de Ierse piloot Thomas Noble Forster. Voor deze bijzondere aangelegenheid zijn 14 leden van de familie Forster overgekomen uit Ierland, Engeland en Denemarken. Het zal aan vast goed doen dat u met zoveel hier bent gekomen om met ons hun oom Tom te herdenken. Voor onze Ierse gasten zullen we nu de rest van de ceremonie vervolgen in het Engels. Elder one, Mr. Tollenaar, will now speak on behalf of the municipality of Goeree-Overflakkee.
A warm welcome to the family Forster, dear family of Thomas. My name is Frans Tollenaar. I am councillor of the municipality of Goeree-Overflakkee. The story of the deceased family member touched me. I cannot imagine the reality to live between hope and fear as family, because the body of Thomas was never found. And he was only 21 years old. And we heard in the document what it has done with your family. And what it do with your family today. We think it's our duty to attach great importance to honor Allied aviators who died on and around the island of Goeree-Overflakkee during World War II. Thank you for your presence, and I wish you all the best. Now I shall speak a little bit in Dutch. Ik wil ook vooral mijn dank uitspreken aan de stichting Wereldoorlog 2 Goeree-Overflakkee. Het is mede door de inzet van deze stichting dat we op dit eiland al diverse, straks 19 in totaal, herdenkingspanelen hebben. En we zullen de 19e dan ook onthullen zometeen. En zij brengen daarmee de geschiedenis van het herdenken tot leven. En bieden een mooie gedenkplaats aan familieleden van omgekomen vliegediers. En bovenal draagt het bij aan dat wij nooit zullen vergeten hoe de oorlog het land en ook ons gebied heeft getekend en mensen heeft getekend. En hoeveel vooral jonge levens, jonge mannen hun leven hebben gegeven voor onze vrijheid. De Tweede Wereldoorlog ligt nu ver achter ons. En het aantal mensen dat die oorlogsperiode zelf bewust heeft meegemaakt, wordt steeds minder. En de onrust in de wereld steeds groter. En herdenken, ook op 4 mei, maar ook tijdens een gelegenheid als deze, blijft onverminderd belangrijk. Ook hij, Thomas Forster, die zich voor onze vrijheid heeft ingezet en zijn leven daarvoor gaf, heeft niet tevergeefs gestreden. Wij herdenken hem hier en nu. We shall remember him. Thank you, familie Forster. Dank u wel.
Last year in October, the Forster family already visited our island. On the day of our visit, we sailed on the Haringvliet from Stellendam here to the stad on het Haringvliet, where we placed a reef in the water. And we sang the song Abide With Me. It was a very emotional moment in a way, and in a way it brought closure to the family. They now were able to say goodbye to their uncle. Jeanette Braber, Colinda Strijdhorst and Petra Diepenhorst will now sing Abide With Me for you.
Dames and heren, Untitled, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour for me to attend today's unveiling ceremony on behalf of the Irish Embassy in the Netherlands. I am delighted to be here, and in particular to be able to extend greetings to the families of Thomas Noble Forster, who are here with us today. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Dennis Notenboom, Chairman of the Foundation, for extending an invitation to the Embassy and involving us in this commemoration. The Foundation carries out important work in collecting, restoring and displaying local historical objects from the period of the Second World War. The Foundation not only works tirelessly to uncover history, parts of history that are often forgotten or hidden, but its dedicated members also honour the bravery, service and sacrifice of the airmen who lost their lives on the Hurré over Vaque and its surrounding waters. The work of the Foundation has resulted in the placement of memorial panels all over the island to honour these airmen. And today it is a great honour to be part of the unveiling of this panel in commemoration of Tommy Forster. It's a particular pleasure to meet so many relatives of Mr. Forster, and the commitment you have shown in travelling all this way to the island on more than one occasion is admirable. While the RAF have commemorated those who are still missing in action from Squadron 78 in a ceremony in 2011, it's also important to mark the loss of Tommy on a more intimate and personal level. I know that many of you have already said goodbye and laid a wreath in his memory on the boat trip from the Haringvliet to Sea Arm last year, and today marks another important moment for the family. With the unveiling of this plaque, Tommy will now become part of the official record of the history of the Second World War on the island of Hurré over Vaque. He may be missing in action, but his dedication and sacrifice will never be forgotten. While Ireland remained neutral during the Second World War, approximately 250 Irish men lost their lives fighting with the British Royal Air Force. The stories of their service too are often deeply moving. Tommy Forster too dedicated his life to fighting for the Allied forces. leaving the comforts and safety of home behind to serve as a pilot for the RAF. Today we make sure his name is part of the tapestry of Irish figures woven into the fabric of history. With the unveiling of this plaque, Thomas Noble Forster is a name that now joins the memories, anecdotes, stories, and ultimate tragedies of the experience of the Allied forces during World War II. The Embassy is proud to attend the unveiling of this plaque in the memory of Thomas Noble Forster, missing in action. In conclusion, I would like to quote from the final poem written by Irish poet and Nobel laureate Seamus Heaney, called In the Field. Step the fleshy earth and follow the long-heeled footprints of one who arrived from nowhere, unfamiliar and demobbed. In buttoned khaki and buffed army boots, bruising the turned-up acres of our backfield, to stumble from the winding's magic ring, and take me by the hand to lead me back through the same old gate into the yard, where suddenly everyone has appeared. All stand waiting. A gwine usual, gur mahagwif I geir sactorm, yeshday gur anam. May Thomas rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Louis van Eck will now recite a poem he wrote especially for today. It's called Standing on the Shoulders of Giants.
One day he will be free, live a long life full of joy. He was a little soldier boy, swallowed in the sea, after so many flights. Thank you, Tom. I'm thankful. It's alright. We can dance in the morning light. Thank you.
Thomas Noble Forster, nephew and namesake, will now say some words on behalf of the family Forster.
For my short speech, I decided I would like to write a letter to Uncle Tom. Dear Uncle Tom, what a day to be here, and what an honour to be taking part in this ceremony. If you had lived, you would be older than the oldest of us, but you died when you were younger than the youngest of us. We are sure that if we had the chance to know you, you would have been a well-loved member of our family, and that our childhood memories would have been filled with your tales of the war, with pleas for just one more story or to tell us about the night you flew a special wartime mission. We would have met on many happy and some sad family occasions. We may have asked you to lend a hand in the mill or on the farm. I am sure you would have had a family of your own. On our behalf of the other crew members on your plane, that fateful night, we are grateful for your will and courage that helped them to evacuate the aircraft. Perhaps the place where it eventually landed is very near to us here, somewhere out there. We certainly hope that it is, as we have been so fortunate as to be welcomed by the many people who have made both this trip and our previous trips possible, and for that and all the family would like to express our wholehearted gratitude, especially to Dennis, who has put so much time into preparing for this day and making it the very special occasion that we could not have imagined without your assistance. But what more can I say to you all, only to be so glad to be here to unveil this plaque today. It really is a place we'll come back again next year, hopefully. It's only an hour and a bit away from the old plane anyway. And I can't believe that so many friendly people here. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to unveil the memorial panel. If Miss Carolyn Whelan, Isla, Leanne and Joy will please come forward to do the honors and unveil the panel. We will now lay the flowers at the memorial panel. First is Thomas Noble Forster and Myla on behalf of the Forster family. On behalf of the Irish Embassy, Miss Whelan, Deputy Head of Mission of the Irish Embassy. On behalf of the Municipality of Goede and the Foundation WO2GO, Mr. Tollenaar and Mr. De Oude. On behalf of the Village Council Stad aan het Haarvliet, Mr. Diepenhorst and Mrs. Braber. On behalf of the Royal British Legion Holland Branch, Mr. van Ekelenburg. And I now would like to invite all the others who have flowers with them. You can place them now. Now we will wait now for the fly past that will be here at 3:15. It's now 10 minutes past 3, so we have 5 minutes left. Perhaps in the meantime, if you want to take some pictures for the family, we can do that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Yes. Okay.
Minus the
Kom.
town will be
Ja, niet te trouwen. Geen vol, Wim.
Today was, I'm probably all well up, but, and I did cry a lot during it.
Fantastic day. We hadn't expected anything like this. So many things have happened today, and it's just been a pleasure the whole time.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Thomas Noble Forster.
So nice, so friendly, so relaxing.
It was a day of remembrance of an uncle I never met because he was gone in 43 and I was only born in 47.
But I often wondered, like, what happened to him? We always spoke about it in the family, and nobody really knew what really happened.
And he did find some snippet of information that our uncle could have crashed in Holland.
And it all started because of one email I sent to the local newspaper.
I think he either rang a local newspaper or something.
Wondering if, they could figure out something, what happened to my uncle. And within 2 hours, Dennis was back with an email.
And at some stage, anyhow, he got in touch with Dennis, and they were toing and froing, exchanging information.
And then the whole thing went from there.
Dennis then was able to carry it further, and it was great for everyone. And he's been great. Yeah.
I didn't expect anything, I thought I'd have to move something. I thought I'd have to use a lot of energy doing it, but it's just sort of exploded really in a way.
Well, it was always a photograph in the sitting room of this photograph that you see, and it was in a frame, and the wings were in underneath. It was in a place of honour.
I never knew Tom, but my grandmother was still alive when I was little, and I lived in the same house as her.
There was reminders around all the time. He was my father's youngest brother.
Well, it affected me more now than a young boy because I know so much about it now and where it happened and being nearly on the Harley Way was supposed to be the plane came down on that water.
We, as young children, always thought he went down in the North Sea.
It's a sense of pride too that he was such a young man that gave his life, and he was a very modest man. He just said, you know, people said to me, you're a pilot. Anybody could do that, he said, you know, he's that sort of man.
It's as much, it's all you could hope for, is closure on it with today. We can't ever really hope to find the wreck or the plane.
It's fantastic. Just think, I mean, Dennis, you know, he helps his kids, he coaches kids, he works and he does all this work, and it is a lot of work.
And all the people that came today, it's unbelievable, you know, the sort of, you know, what to know about us really, you know, they were so kind.
I think that's what we're using it for, to get together, to keep bonds in the family together.
It is, it's like a missing link, nearly.
It was brilliant.
We're just enjoying every bit of it.